Well, hello everyone, and welcome to you all from wherever you're coming from in the world today. Many of you will still be in yesterday, our time. We're early morning on Friday here in Australia, and it's a huge pleasure for us to welcome you here today. We do live here in Australia in a post-colonial country, and we have a tradition of acknowledging the Indigenous owners of this land before we begin any official proceedings. So today I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which I sit today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And it's upon their ancestral lands that I am fortunate enough to live and to work. I'm welcoming any other Indigenous Australians here on our discussion today, and indeed any Indigenous people on their traditional lands or non-traditional lands in other countries from wherever you are today. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Louise Chappell. I'm a professor in the Australian Human Rights Institute at the University of New South Wales here in Sydney, Australia. And I'm working on this project with two wonderful collaborators, Dr. Rosemary Gray, who is in the law school at the University of Sydney, and Dr. Casey McLaughlin at the law school of the University of Newcastle. We are also very fortunate to have Susan Burrell working with us. She's a PhD student in the law faculty at the University of New South Wales. So a little bit of background to the project that we're all engaged in and very excited about. Together, Rose, Casey and I applied to the Australian Research Council in 2020 for a 3-year grant to support our work on gender judging and the International Criminal Court. And we were very excited when we received that grant and news of that grant at the end of last year, because one of the major outcomes of that grant was this book that you've all shown such enthusiasm for, to think about using the feminist judging methodology in relation to the International Criminal Court. And this will be the first time it's been used consistently to address a range of cases at the ICC. We know that in the International Judgments Project, more generally, there was a chapter or two, but this gives us the opportunity to really delve much more deeply into this issue of gender and judging at the ICC. So we've been absolutely thrilled and overwhelmed at the response across the world to this project. I think we have about 35 people who have put their hand up to say they'd like to be involved in the project, which is fantastic, and some others that we have commissioned to be involved in the project as well. So all up, I think we've got about 50 authors, which is hugely exciting and also a little bit daunting. So we'll talk more about that later today. But in our session this morning, my time, we want to address 3 key issues. Number one is get to know you a little bit more. There are many of you who we have had connections with in the past, but others who we don't know at all. So it'll be very nice to get to hear about your interest in the ICC this morning and to try and start some collaborative discussions amongst this group. We also want to introduce those of you who aren't familiar with the feminist judgment methodology to at least have an introduction to that. This isn't going to be the last workshop in relation to this project, so we're not expecting you to know everything at the end of today, but just at least to have an initial discussion about that and to set out a timeline for completion of the project. So I'll introduce myself just a little bit more. I've had a long-held interest in the International Criminal Court and published quite widely in that area. One of my real interests in this particular project is that we're expanding our feminist focus around the ICC more directly to the work of the bench. I think up until now, most feminist analyses of the ICC really concentrated on the investigation, evidence gathering, prosecution strategy side. And I don't think there's been enough focus on the role that the bench has played in the outcomes of the ICC. So that's what really interests me. I'd now like to call on my colleagues, Casey, then Rose, then Suzanne, to introduce yourselves. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name's Casey McLaughlin, and I'm thrilled to be part of this project and to see you all. My research interests actually to date have been more around the domestic sphere in terms of gender and judging, and particularly critiquing an idea about women judges making a difference, and instead thinking about how feminist judges might make a difference and critically interrogating that possibility. So in this project, I'm really excited about the extent to which that feminist judgment methodology is transferable to the International Criminal Court, and thinking about the transformative potential of such a project.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Louise. I'm Rosemary Gray. I'm thrilled to be connecting or reconnecting with you all on this call today. My interest is twofold. Firstly, I am really excited to be working on this team with Louise, with Suzanne, with Casey, and with all of you, because what we have is a truly intersectional and international group of thinkers represented. There's around about 50 of us, and I really think that this is just an incredible cohort to be working with. And the other thing that excites me about the project is I've been studying international criminal law with a particular focus on sexual and gender-based crimes for the past decade. What I'm really excited about in this project is that the gender lens is not only about sexual and gender-based crimes. We're really blowing open the concept of gender analysis to also think about modes of liability, complementarity, state cooperation, defences, every different issue that touches on the ICC. And I really can't wait to see where we all take it.
Thanks, Rose. Suzanne.
So as Louise mentioned, I'm a PhD student at UNSW, and my research looks at international criminal liability for war crimes, and I'm particularly looking at corporate liability, but I'm very interested in the ICC, and I'm super excited to work with such an amazing team of women and all of you amazing collaborators as well. So thanks.